And thank you, audience, for the wonderful silent applause. At this time, I do want to just share a few announcements. We're going to transition to prepared questions from the Indivisible team. I kindly ask that you please speak into the mic so that everyone from the front row to the very, very back can hear you. And because I've had the pleasure of interacting with every single person on this candidate forum before tonight, I will be addressing everyone by their first name, okay? And lastly, to the audience, if you have not turned in your index card with a question, there will be some folks who are kind of walking around looking for your index card, so just kind of keep that raised up. All right, y'all ready? Let's get it. This is a 90-second question. We are going to say the question and then say the person. What steps will you take to protect the civil and human rights of Coloradans and those throughout the nation in the face of blatant violations of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights? What steps will you take to protect the civil and human rights of Coloradans and those throughout the nation in the face of blatant violations of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights? And this goes to Jessica.
Thank you. As someone who swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution and then ended up teaching about the Constitution and rule of law in law school at Georgetown, I care deeply about the erosion that we are seeing every single day from this administration. Every morning we wake up, and I don't know about you, I go to my phone, I'm sort of scared about what I'm going to read. We are seeing our constitutional rights protected, our liberties be eroded every single day, and we have to have leaders in Congress and in our public servants who will actually stand up to it. We are getting none of that from Jeff Crank. Let me be clear, he has been silent, and his silence is complicity. Now, there are, the first check, I think the first thing we have to do is we have to elect leaders who will actually put a check on the lawlessness, the corruption, and the overreach of this administration. That is the absolute first thing. But I will just talk about the most egregious example that we've seen recently, which is the ICE raids in this country. I have called for Kristi Noem's ouster. Of course, Jeff Crank has done nothing. He's basically blamed Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy for their own murders. And he's done nothing to ensure that we put guardrails on the actions of ICE and what our ICE agents are doing across our country. They are stoking fear in our communities, and they are not actually enforcing the law. And as someone who is trained in law enforcement tactics, they're not following the rules and the law that they should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Zuri.
Hi. So the biggest thing we need is consequences. I'm a Courage candidate. We have pledged that we will impeach Trump when we get into office for all of the many constitutional violations. We need to abolish ICE. Guardrails are not enough. They are acting unconstitutionally over and over and over again against freedom of the press, against people's ability to be alive in this country. We have 4 camera angles of Alex Preddy dying. An additional body cam will not fix that. We need to make sure that we have a government that is functional, that is having its checks and balances appreciated, which includes removing members of the Supreme Court who are not acting according to good behavior, which is enunciated in the Constitution, so they should be impeached and removed. We need to make sure that Congress isn't selling stocks, that Congress isn't allowed to become lobbyists after being in Congress. I would say even before being in Congress. There's a lot of work to be done, but we have to be very clear about clear consequences for actions that are unconstitutional. We can't talk about guardrails, we can't talk about small, little things that we already know they have blown past. We have to meet the moment and deal with the reality of what's happening right now.
Thank you. Next is Joe. Bless you.
Listen, the Constitution does not defend itself. We need leaders that are actually willing to stand up and defend the Constitution. And in Congress, the first thing that we need are leaders that are willing to use their congressional authority to claw back what has been ceded to the executive. This administration has blatantly turned its back on the Constitution. Our Republican representatives have said that the due process clause is inconvenient for them. And when that occurs, we have no rights. We need members of Congress that are willing to use the full scope of their authority to conduct investigations and to make sure that independent agencies are allowed to operate as we do. And I hope we do spend a lot more time talking about ICE, because we should get into that. But when we talk about defending individual liberties for all of us, we also need those people that are willing to stand up for women's rights, LGBTQ rights. These are things that too long, this conversation has been repeated time and time again. Why are we not sending people to Washington that are willing to have these difficult conversations and to put these elements into law, things that we have accepted for so long? In Congress, that's exactly the sort of leadership that I plan to take there. Being someone that's willing to go and push the limit. It's not just about impeachment, it is about leveraging all aspects of authority to claw back what Congress is supposed to have in the Constitution and making sure the administration is held in check.
Thank you. Matt?
I'll protect the civil and human rights of Coloradans and all Americans with my own life. As a retired military officer, my oath is still in effect. And this is personal for me, frankly, because my family is in the Twin Cities. My mom was a teacher in St. Paul in a high-crime neighborhood where she routinely heard gunshots within a 1-mile radius of the school. Never once did I ever hear her complain or ever hear any concern from her. A week and a half ago, I heard her say, "I'm scared to live here right now." This is an administration that has defined decency down, and the only way to correct that is with the legislative branch. The founders put us on a 3-legged stool. 2 of those legs have been kicked out. The first among equals, the legislative branch, is silent. Jeff Crank is silent. My mom's bunco group can figure out the second Tuesday of the month. I'm not sure how it is that Jeff Crank can't figure out the same, but I promise you I will. And when I was in the Army, and there was a guy that was afraid to face the enemy, we called that a coward. I don't know what you would call a politician who won't face his own voters, but it's not pleasant or good. If you want no kings, then it starts with no cranks. Thank you.
Thank you. And Justice.
Elect me first. First of all, elect me so that I can bring truth and transparency to this country again. Because you guys are in limbo right now. We're all worried about what's about to happen and who's about to take this seat. Give me an opportunity to tell the truth and to get our human rights back, because we're lacking right now. We're losing people. There are people dying in the streets every single day. And I've had that lived experience, so I already know what's going on. I don't have to think that, oh, this may happen to me, this may cross my path one day. It already has. My constitutional rights and liberties have been jeopardized since I was born. And at this point, I'm bringing all my people together so that we could really do something different. A change needs to happen, which means a change in a look of Congress needs to happen as well. So by me being placed there, I will be able to give the people what they need by actually giving them the actual facts and not giving them fluff.
Thank you. As a reminder to the audience, please ensure that your devices are on silent. We will move on to question number 2. This is a 60-second question. A 60-second question. The current administration's immigration policy focuses on a shock and awe approach of mass deportation and lack of due process. What does good immigration policy look like to you? Again, the question is, the current administration's immigration policy focuses on a shock and awe approach of mass deportation and lack of due process. What does good immigration policy look like to you? The question goes first to Matt.
I mean, we're a country of laws. We can uphold them. We're a country of decency. We can do that too. there's always going to be a tension somewhere in that mix. And so we also have systems for feedback. And we have systems and standards for law enforcement agents. Law enforcement agents don't mask up. That removes their own humanity. When you think about it, it makes them seem as aliens to the community. Law enforcement agents record their activities. My cousin is a cop. He's disgusted by what he sees on the streets in the Twin Cities. I mean, these are simple, basic principles. And we're big enough to be able to do all of them at once. Look, we're not so far, our better angels are still better than our darker demons. I can see that in this room right now.
And that's time. Thank you. The question now goes to Justice.
Good immigration policy starts with transparency and honesty. It starts with wraparound care. It starts with people actually paying attention to whether or not an individual is a criminal or an illegal alien or a person that's coming into this country trying to make a better life. ICE dealing with our people, whether they're from here, born here, come here, decided that they wanted to just come here and be part of America. The transparency is what we need. The truth is what we need, and not acting and believing that people are criminals just because of the color of their skin. Starts with that.
Thank you. The question now goes to Jessica.
We are a nation of immigrants. That is this country. That is who we are. Let's not forget that. Thank you. I do believe that it is absolutely critical that every country knows who and what is coming across its border, and we should not have a porous border. But what we are seeing unfold before us across our country in the indiscriminate ICE raids is absolutely unacceptable. Because we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can treat these people, immigrants, with humanity and dignity. And remember, they are a critical and important part of our economy and our way of life. So I think you can do both at one time by training people appropriately and having training law enforcement officers to do their job in a humane and dignified way. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Zuri.
All right, let's try to get this in 60 seconds. Abolish ICE, look into Border Patrol, which has been involved in a number of these killings. Make sure that we have the appropriate number of immigration judges. Make sure that people who are nonviolent, are not involved in egregious white-collar crimes, are not imprisoned. They should be allowed to work and live in their community as they go through the immigration process safely. And they are members of our community. We don't need to be going after members of our community that have lived here for decades. Also making sure that DACA residents are granted citizenship and are protected, making sure that we continue to pick up DACA residents, DACA recipients, because I think a lot of people have fallen through the cracks who would be up for that. And then, of course, we're not going to allow people who are violent criminals or committing horrific crimes. That's been the policy to deport those people, which makes a lot of sense. But we really benefit off of the backs of workers. Our costs go down because we underpay people. We benefit from this unfair immigration system. And we need to fix it.
Thank you. And last but not least, Joe.
I don't think I can say what it's going to look like in 60 seconds, but I can certainly tell you about 5 what it shouldn't look like. When I was in Afghanistan, my platoon had a casualty rate that exceeded 100%. And alongside me each and every day were my 2 Afghan interpreters that helped me navigate the battlefield. Not just physically, not just through translation, but literally culturally, figuring out how do we navigate this place that we're strangers to. It took me almost 10 years to help them work through the special immigrant visa program. I haven't speak to the past. Over the summer, one of them sent me a picture of him sitting here in front of an immigration facility in Dallas, Texas. And he was holding his American citizenship certificate and an American flag. That's what immigration looks like. The fact that he and his family were able to come here and establish their American dream and contribute to our community. That's the system that we have to go through. Can't describe it in 60 seconds, but I can tell you what it feels like. And it's that
That's
picture.
time, thank you. Now, question number 3 was given to you as candidates, so you're aware, audience. You have 90 seconds for this question. In a recent interview, President Trump stated, quote, "When you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election," end quote. Voting rights and public trust in elections are under sustained attack. How would you defend free and fair voting, including efforts such as the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act of 2025? Again, the question is, in a recent interview, President Trump stated, quote, "When you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election," end quote. Voting rights and public trust in elections are under sustained attack. How would you defend free and fair voting, including efforts such as the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act of 2025? Again, you have 9 seconds, and this goes to Joe first. 90 seconds. Sorry.
The 9-second answer is yes, I would co-sponsor the Voting Rights Act. The longer answer is, listen, in 2009, when I was in Afghanistan, I helped the Afghan partners secure their election. And to watch how the Afghans showed up despite the literal, physical threats to them going to the polling stations, it showed what commitment to democracy really looks like. And to sit there and be someone that swore an oath to defend this country, and have the President of the United States say, "Yeah, we don't need elections." I can't think of something less American than someone saying that. And the fact that you have Republicans that are agreeing with it, whether quietly or vocally, is absolutely ridiculous. Those are people that are unfit to hold any office. This goes well beyond that, though. We also have to make sure that we're getting into looking at independent redistricting, like we have here in Colorado. We have some of the safest, most secure, most accessible election processes in the country. It should be a national model that we're able to go, that of course each state should adopt independently. When we're talking about bringing faith into our elections, we also need elected officials that are willing to say before an election that they accept without a doubt how that election is going to go. And if you've never watched our elections happen here in Colorado, I would encourage you to do so, because it is fair, it is transparent, and it is definitely legitimate.
Thank you. The question now goes to Jessica.
Safe, secure, free, and fair elections are the cornerstone of this democracy, and I will always stand up to ensure that we have safe and secure and free and fair elections. As someone who was on Capitol Hill on January 6th, 2021, not as a rioter, by the way, as the chief of staff, just to be clear, I saw firsthand what happens when an elected official, in this case the President of the United States, undermines the integrity of an election. And I never want to see that again. And he and Crank and other Republicans are taking every step they can to erode the integrity of our elections. President Trump just this week called for the nationalization of elections, which everyone knows is completely unconstitutional. The Republicans just a couple weeks ago introduced a bill called the Make Elections Great Again bill, and trust me when I tell you, it will not make elections greater. It actually will eviscerate the mail-in voting system we have here in Colorado. They've also pushed forward the SAVE Act, which would make it harder for active duty military service members to vote, make it harder for people of color to vote. They are doing everything they can, including also challenging the Voting Rights Act in the Supreme Court. So we need people who actually give a crap about making sure that we have free and fair elections, and we need to elect those people to Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Zuri.
All right, well actually when I moved back here in 2020, I had 2 events that I led to support the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. So we went to Senator Bennett's office, and then we went to John Hickenlooper's office, and then we also had an event with Senator Exum. He was, I think, a representative at the time, to honor John Lewis as well. So it's been something that's been on my radar for a while. I'm kind of one of those people that when there's a problem, I always want to try to have an answer and a solution. One of them is making sure that we don't pass the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act would require a birth certificate and a passport, and it could mean that millions of women wouldn't be able to vote, which is a long-term plan of the Republican Party. I also would want us to have an election day that is a national holiday. I think in Colorado specifically, we would benefit from having that day be between ballots dropping and then on election day, because we do have mail-in ballots, so it would make a lot of sense. But the biggest thing right now is making sure that we have a government that is not owned by money, that people can trust, because people are not going to trust their elections if they don't trust the government. And that is, on its face, the most important thing. So that is making sure that there are consequences for not following the Constitution.
Thank you. Justice?
I agree with the fact that Colorado has a super, super fair voting process. It's a beautiful thing. And I think we need to keep methods like that, mail-in ballots, informing our voters first and foremost, having major events throughout the city, letting people know, because a lot of people don't vote because they don't know what's going on. A lot of people don't get out there and defend their own rights because they don't know what's happening. And if we're too afraid to talk to someone who's homeless or to speak to somebody who doesn't look like we do, then we're doing a great disservice. And for me, that's how I feel that I'll defend that, by meeting people where they're at, by talking to constituents, by having full-on events that let people know, hey, this is what's going on, and we need to be defending our democracy right now, because it's in trouble. Our people are in trouble. Our livelihoods are in trouble. Our safety is in trouble. Our homes are in trouble. If you guys want to see internment camps happening again, then act like you don't know what's going on. Act like you don't know how to defend it. You defend it by being a people, not by being a process.
Thank you. And Matt?
I think it's a darn good thing that asking President Trump what he thinks about voting is a lot like asking a pig what it thinks about a wristwatch. The Constitution grants no authority to the president here, and it's a darn good thing. And look, I think that the low-hanging fruit here is to endorse the Lewis Voting Rights Act. I also think that sunshine is the best disinfectant. Getting candidates expressing their belief and their faith in our electoral system is the right thing, that we need a herd immunity against this disease, this rot that's taken over in some of the other parts of the political sphere. I mean, some principles are no longer guaranteed, like the duty to disobey an illegal order in the military, for example. I would also, as Joe put it, expand Colorado's nonpartisan redistricting effort. And you know, all of this leads back to where we started 250 years ago. We fought a revolution for these rights. You know, in the summer of 1776, the largest armada the British Empire ever sent anywhere stationed itself off of New York Harbor. 42,000 troops, 400 ships. George Washington was beaten in battle and beaten in battle and beaten in battle all the way out of New York into New Jersey until he had just a few thousand soldiers left. And in November, that's when Thomas Paine wrote the words, "These are the times that try men's souls."
And
we're
that's
back to
time.
those times again.
That's time, thank you. We are moving to question 4. This is a 60-second question. What actions will you take to ensure adequate and affordable health care coverage for Colorado residents? Again, the 60-second question is, what actions will you take to ensure adequate and affordable health care coverage for Colorado residents? It goes to Justice first.
Tell the people what's possible. Tell the people what you have to offer them in order for them to know what's affordable. In order for them to know what it is that they have capable to them. And really, I frankly think that we should have free healthcare. But that's going to take forever to get to that point. So while we're here in the Affordable Care Act realm, let's keep it there, because right now, what the president is trying to do is basically take that away from us and not give us anything. So for my people, please, the way you protect healthcare is by voting for it, by voting for you to have care, by voting for you to be looked at, by voting for you to not be treated differently just because of your money bracket.
Thank you. Zuri?
All right. So the majority of people are for Medicare for all. Again, the reason we don't have it is big money. It's insurance companies. My proposal would be to either have Medicare for all, Medicaid for all. I will vote for universal health care. I think some of the really important policies in that include making sure that all health insurance companies are nonprofits and that all hospitals, yeah, sorry, I need to stop for applause. And making sure that all medical facilities, including hospitals, are also nonprofits or public hospitals that are strongly regulated, because we can see with UC Health, they'll have over $1 billion in profit that's not being reinvested into better ratios and better pay and better services for the hospital. Additionally, we need to make sure that, that we've got drug prices and services under control and set every 2 to 3 years, so that when you go in, you know how much you're paying, and then having that be on a sliding scale depending on your income. So yeah, thank you so much, and we can do it.
That's time. Now the question goes to Matt.
Nobody can enjoy the American dream when they're sick and dying of cancer, or when they hear a cough, a deep chest cough coming out of their kid. I assure you, it doesn't feel good at all. When my daughter had a seizure condition, it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I would have, if in some strange way it would have helped, I would have cut my own arm off in order to relieve her of that problem. But the good thing is, I never had to do that crazy thing because medicine took care of her. Jeff Crank's votes will result in 26,000 of our fellow citizens here in the 5th Congressional District losing health care coverage in coming years. That's not acceptable. We must reinstate that health care coverage. We must expand that health care coverage. And I think everyone ought to have health care that I have enjoyed while in uniform in service to this country. It was government health care, and it was goddamn good, and I'm thankful for it.
Thank you. Jessica?
Education roundtable the other day, and I talked to a teacher who had gotten a 10% pay raise but was not feeling the benefit of that pay raise because her health insurance premiums went up by more than that. And I think many people in this room and across our communities are feeling the pain of these increased health insurance premiums. Those were caused, make no mistake, by taking away the ACA subsidies, by the votes in the One Big Beautiful Bill to make cuts on Medicaid. Anytime that happens, that increases the health coverage premiums for everyone in our communities. We also have a whole slew of other problems along with healthcare with surprise billing, denial of claims. I could go on and on. Bottom line, we do need to work toward a public option. We do. Right now, my focus in Congress would be shoring up the ACA, making it the bill that it was designed to be 10 years ago. Republicans have chipped away at it year after year after year. We need to shore it up, make sure we're actually also negotiating prescription drug prices to a reasonable level, get that under control, and then move toward a public option. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joe.
As somebody that's spent over a decade working in the nonprofit space to break down barriers to healthcare, this is another one of those. This is not a 60-second answer. But fundamentally, your financial situation should never prevent you from getting access to high-quality healthcare. And one of the things that we look at, a public option for all, helps us get to that point of universal healthcare, while also not compromising the hard-earned benefits that our unions have fought for decades. Systematically, we need to push for more of a patient-focused care model, where at the end of the day, we're focused too much on profit and volume of care and not focused on patient outcomes. And there's ways that we can do that to implement common sense solutions that focus on what we're doing for the patient and how we can give them higher quality care with better outcomes for less cost. Those are the sorts of programs that I've worked on as a nonprofit leader, and I would want to bring those in Congress as well.
Thank you. And as a reminder, we do have Joan right here in the front with our time. So please keep an eye on time. We're moving to question 5, which is also a 60-second question. El Paso County wages remain below state and national averages, while housing prices are well above the U.S. average. How do you plan to address this imbalance? Again, in 60 seconds, please answer the question. El Paso County wages remain below state and national averages, while housing prices are well below the U.S. average. How do you plan to address this imbalance? We'll start with Matt.
I'll tell you, I think this is one of those ways in which sometimes the Democratic Party goes in the wrong direction. Some folks talk about freezing rents, for example. This is a bad direction to go in. We know that it doesn't work the same way that if you went into an oncologist and they started attaching leeches to you to cure your cancer. This is a simple problem of economics. It's supply and demand. We need to build more housing at every level. We're only building about 40% of the housing stock that we need, and not a single part of the market is being adequately addressed. Whether it's a starter home, whether it's for a growing family, or whether it's for folks like my parents who are looking to downsize. We need to build more, and we need to build smarter.
Thank you. The question now goes to Joe.
60 seconds, you said?
Yes.
All right.
Or maybe 6.
Down to 30. So listen, again, as a nonprofit leader, I've worked on issues related to housing, homelessness, housing instability, and this is not just a housing problem, it's also a wage issue. And so when we talk about where do we do that? Strengthening unions and collective bargaining allows workers to have a voice, to strengthen that and stand up and say, we need our wages to match what we're seeing in inflation. We also need to regulate the insurance industry. I look out here and I guarantee you, every one of you, just like me, has seen your property insurance skyrocket over the past couple of years because we're not making the necessary investments in wildfire mitigation and other climate-related disasters that are driving up those costs. And in Congress, that's where the federal government needs to get involved to be able to do that. I also think we need to look at the fact that this administration, this Congress has allowed the administration to put the largest tax increase on working Americans in the history of our government. These tariffs are not the ability, do not belong to the administration.
And that's
Congress
time,
needs to take
Joe.
that.
Thank you. Justice.
Raise pay rates in the state, make housing affordable, cap the rent increases, open up programs to advance people who are renters right now into being homeowners, teaching people how to do that, teaching people what that looks like, that they're capable, even though they're not in the same money bracket. You may be poor, you may be middle class, you may be upper class, but everybody should have the opportunity to be able to say, I own a home at least once in their life. So if we're able to educate folks on what that looks like, then maybe that's what we need to be doing.
Thank you. Suri?
All right, so support the PRO Act, support pro-unionization so that we have people coming to the table who know the job and know what they need to do that job well and to be compensated properly, to make sure that we've got paid leave when necessary, to make sure that we have appropriate vacation days and safety. When it comes to affordability, we need to also have a more robust public option that includes middle-class families. Because what ends up happening is we only offer affordable housing to people when they're struggling at their worst moments in life, and we don't let them, once they get kicked out of that housing, then they can't afford housing because they make too much and then they go back in. Instead, we should allow, on a sliding scale, affordable housing, that we also have to have more ADUs, townhomes, making sure that we have infill in our homes and have appropriately made housing. But if we don't have a public housing option, if it's always for profit, then we don't have something to compete with the public option, and it's always going to be an investment over a home. So we want to make sure that housing is home first and not just an investment.
Time. Thank you. Jessica?
Buying the home is such a critical part of the American dream. I bought my first home when I was 30, and I know that the average age now to buy your first home is going up to 40, and that's not okay in terms of being able to achieve that. And you're right. I mean, the question is that we have this mismatch between incomes and housing stock here. And actually, one of the big problems is we have not incentivized the building of the right types of homes. We have a bunch of big $500,000 plus houses that are sitting empty because people here can't afford them. So we have to address the wage issue. I agree with good union jobs. I agree that we should also make sure we're attracting businesses into our community that are going to pay high-paying jobs. We also need to incentivize our builders, which we need to work at the state, local, and federal level to incentivize building of the right type of housing. So that's $100,000 houses, condos, apartments. So we have a good mix, which we don't have enough here in El Paso County, and that's what I would work for as your member.
Thank you. We will be now moving to question 6. This is a 90-second question, and this question was previously given to you as candidates. So in 90 seconds, please answer the question. How will you address the implications of Citizens United and corporate influence in politics? Again, how will you address the implications of Citizens United and corporate influence in politics? And it goes first to Jessica.
Thank you so much. You know, I am seeing, as I talk to voters about this election and the election coming up, so many people have lost faith in their public servants and in our process. And it is because there's too much money in politics and corporations play too much of a role in that. I will first and foremost just say I don't take any corporate PAC money, but you know who does? Jeff Crank. He's taken thousands of dollars of corporate PAC money already this cycle, and last cycle he got about over $2 million pumped into his campaign via Citizens United. So we do need to work to overturn Citizens United, and that's how I would vote if I were a member of Congress. In addition to that, though, we need to do other things to restore people's faith in their public servants, because by the way, public service shouldn't make you money. So it's called public service for a reason. So one of the things I would focus on if I were a member of Congress is to stop stock ownership and stock trading, not just in Congress, but in the Supreme Court and in the executive branch. When I was at the White House, they don't follow the same rules anymore, obviously. I couldn't own stock and I couldn't trade stock, and that's the way it should be. So we need to focus on making sure that we are passing policies and focusing on policies that restore the integrity of our election system and restore our faith in our public servants. Thanks.
Thank you. The question now goes to Matt.
I mean, some of this is a layup. Overturning Citizens United is a given. Publicly funding campaigns is as well. If we want to see normal people in politics, refusing corporate PAC money, of course. My background is 25 years in uniform. And then afterwards, I was the CEO of a healthcare nonprofit, the National Kidney Donation Organization, whose mission was quite literally to save lives. I protected America and Americans, and the one thing I didn't do was build a little black book full of names of rich people or lobbyists. That is what makes it quite difficult to run for Congress. It's no wonder why we have more than 3 times the number of millionaires in Congress than we do with people with military service in their background. Quick show of hands, how many of you like lobbyists? Don't see a lot of hands going up, do we? Colorado Springs doesn't need DC lobbyists to help us understand our priorities here. We need to send our priorities to Washington, DC. And if we get it right, we're going to be restoring we the people the way that it should be, with regular citizens like all of us assembled here tonight, also representing us in Congress, the way that it was 250 years ago, the way that it's going to be 250 years from now.
Thank you. Zuri?
All right, well, we do eventually need a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. Currently, the issue is that even if we were to put laws in place to limit Citizens United, the current Supreme Court would act against it. So, which also goes to needing money out of politics and also goes to needing to remove people who are on the Supreme Court who are not acting correctly. Additionally, there's a few policies that are good. There is the public option. There's also taxing corporate PACs and then putting that money into the public option. There's also the Montana plan, which means that every state is allowed to have the unlimited authority to define the powers it grants to corporations. So corporations only have the power that states grant them, which means that we could say that they don't have the power to donate to political campaigns. So that's one thing that's happening, and Lorena Garcia here is working on that for Colorado. So if you're interested, please contact your state senators and your state reps to let them know that that's important, that that's there for you. Yeah, and that's kind of it. I mean, I think the biggest thing is making sure that we get big money out of politics, and beyond that, that we have a cultural shift. That we ask candidates not only to not take corporate PAC money, which is the hard side that is followed, but also ask candidates, who are you meeting with? Are you meeting with corporate lobbyists? Is your team meeting with corporate lobbyists? Who are you talking to? Because in the long run, they can rip off.
And that's
things.
time, Mary, thank you. Joe?
See, this should have been the 60-second question, because it's easy. Reverse Citizens United. It really is that simple. But we have to go beyond that too. When we look at where dark money is influencing our elections, it all goes into how foreign entities are funding campaigns to influence the way that we think, the way that we vote, the way that our lobbyists are interacting. Look at this administration has Russian assets that are in part of the process. But for me, this actually starts with how I run my own campaign. And being out there not taking corporate money, not taking APAC money, making sure that we start with a grassroots effort. The majority of my money has come from right here in El Paso County. The people that are funding my campaign are the same people that are going to vote for me, because I don't want to be accountable to outside resources. I want to be accountable to you. And that's the way it should be. Local people funding local campaigns so that our obligation is to support you. That's how I've chosen to run my campaign. Those are the sorts of reforms I'll make into Congress. And we've talked a lot about the different things you can go into. But what I'm doing right now is exactly what I think we should be doing. Grassroots efforts to engage people where they're at, get them behind us, and actually have real representation that's accountable to the people they represent.
Thank you. Justice?
Thank you. I don't even want to top what he just said because I agree with it. I am all for that because we the people is correct, and corporate influence does not belong in politics at all. I am one of those people who started losing faith in democracy, who started losing faith in the voting system, and through me running the campaigns that I've run, through me advocating for equality of services and wraparound care in our city, it restored my faith in humanity. It restored my faith in our people. It restored my faith in the belief system that we can do this, y'all. We can make this happen. Give me your money. I don't want to take big money. I don't want to have to fight for millions of dollars when I know that I'm wholly grassroots up in here. I need y'all's money so I can do right by y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are at 6:27, going on 6:28. We were able to get through 6 of 11 questions that were provided by Indivisible. But to respect time, we will be moving to the audience question and answers. So these questions were drawn from you. They were selected to avoid a duplication of our moderated questions, and the order will be random as we ask these questions. You will have 60 seconds for each of these questions, okay? So let's get started. Are you ready? I read through some of them. They're quite, whew. All right, 60 seconds. We are going to start with, oh, wait, you need a question, just kidding. All right, Joan, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have plans to have the top 1% and large corporations pay their fair share of taxes? Again, do you have plans to have the top 1% and large corporations pay their fair share of taxes? This goes to Joe first.
You know, when I get out there and talk to voters, especially Republican voters, and they talk about making America great, the question I ask them is, when was America great? And most of them will say, 1950s, 1960s. To which I turn to them and say, do you know what the tax rate was in 1960? It was 80%. Well, but even Donald Trump has proposed, and it was quickly shut down, a 40% tax bracket for those making over $1 million. Right? If you look historically where we're at, when America thrives, is when our wealthiest contribute back and make sure they're making investments in our community. And so yes, it is time that we have to tackle the deficit. We have to make sure we're being responsible spenders. But let me tell you this about myself. As someone that's run a nonprofit, there's nobody that is a better fiscal steward than I am. I can make budgets stretch. And those are the people that we need in Congress, that understand the real impacts of spending dollars in Congress the same way we would spend them out of our own wallets.
Thank you. Justice?
I mean, doesn't it make sense to make the 1% pay their fair share? I don't even know why this is even a question. I feel like somebody's playing games with us right now because you guys know the answer already. You know that they should be paying. You know that we shouldn't be paying buku dollars out of our little checks to fund them and to fund what they're doing when they already have the money to do it, and they could be giving it right back to us. So, yes, if I'm elected, when I'm elected, I will be forcing that payment to be made of the 1%.
Thank you. Jessica?
I think the biggest problem of impacting and affecting our country right now, not just economics, but the way we talk to each other, the way we engage with each other, is wealth and income inequality. And the policies of this administration and the policies, the tax cuts in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the tariffs, those are only exacerbating that wealth in that gap, and it is eviscerating the middle class. And when I think about what a healthy society is, it is a society that lifts up its most vulnerable and has a robust middle class, which we do not have right now. So we need to do some hard work to build out the robust middle class. We also do need to address the debt. In case you all didn't know, the number 2 line item all of our money, our taxpayer dollars are being spent on right now is interest on the debt. It's the equivalent of maxing out your credit card, paying the minimum, and then expecting you to be able to renovate your house. Not gonna happen. So we have some hard choices to make, but the main core thing we need to do is to focus on building out a robust middle class and with a truly progressive tax policy.
That's time. Thank you. Matt?
The answer is yes. I mean, we are in a tough spot. Our federal government takes in $5 trillion a year and spends $7 trillion. You couldn't run your household that way. I certainly could not. We are $38 trillion in debt. Every baby born in America has $110,000 of debt stapled to the birth certificate. That is fundamentally unsustainable, and it's unfair. And beyond that, are we ever going to have another American dream? The American dream was that economic optimism that drove our national confidence to do big, bold things together. It's the foundation of this country. It's what gave us the courage and confidence to do the hard things because they're hard. We need it again. We need to find it again. And we're only going to find it with members of Congress that have the guts to stick up for it.
Thank you. Zuri?
All right, well, we've been mortgaging our children's future, and we need to be investing in the next generation. And so that means prioritizing affordable housing, good union jobs, all of these things. And I follow Michael Gratz's competitive tax plan, which is based off of modern value-added taxes in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Singapore, and South Africa. And so 100 million people plus wouldn't have to file tax returns, which I think would be a plus, and we'd possibly be able to fund our government. We don't pay enough in taxes, and that does include everybody, but that especially includes billionaires who have enriched themselves by trillions of dollars at this point, and Trump has enriched himself by, I think, $4 billion at this point. So again, corruption is at the root of this, and then also planning for really out of control defense spending, and not making sure that we're investing in that next generation so that we're able to innovate and we're able to continue to actually bring in money because we have advanced technologies and we have people that are really wonderful and thriving.
Thank you. We will now be moving to question 2 from the audience. Again, you have 60 seconds. If you are elected, what is the first national issue you would address? If you are elected, what is the first national issue you would address? We're going to start with Zuri.
All right. Oh, okay. So, impeaching and removing Trump, but I also always have a different, answer to that question because we don't know where we will stand once the election is over. Every day we have a different crazy thing happening in terms of right now all the Epstein files being released. So if that were to be happening, making sure that we have an independent investigation with like a multitude of different people leading it so that nothing falls through the cracks because there's millions and millions of files. We need to really make sure that those are evaluated. So making sure that I address the current crazy issue that is happening and then go back to the structure of making sure that we get big money out of politics.
Thank you. Jessica?
Folks, we are at a triage situation right now in our country. And the first thing we have to do is flip this seat so we can flip the House of Representatives. And once we do that, we have to take the power of Congress back. That's already been alluded to a little bit by Joe and Matt, and I appreciate that. As someone who has worked in and around Congress for a decent chunk of my career, I'm someone who cares deeply about Article 1. And I've watched Congress cede its power to the executive branch for literally 5 presidents. It is now time for us to flip back the House, put a check on the corruption, the lawlessness, the overreach of this administration. That is step 1. Then we need to start working across the aisle and with my fellow Democrats to address the cost of living issues that are being felt so terribly across this country, and putting a check on the tariffs would be the first big one after that.
Thank you. Joe?
Yes, I agree. What we need to be doing is in Congress is clawing back the authority that's been ceded over to the executive branch willingly. Willingly. People have allowed this administration and previous administrations to gain power. And I think specifically, looking at the War Powers Act, right? This administration is on the verge of getting us into multiple global conflicts. We're talking about abandoning our long-term allies, invading Greenland. Not only is it time to look at impeachment of key officials, but we need to bring back the authority that Congress has over things like tariffs, like foreign policy. Because without congressional oversight, we have a bunch of incompetent individuals that are running federal agencies into the ground. Donald Trump has bankrupted 6 companies. Let's not let the United States be the 7th.
Thank you. Justice?
But he stopped 8 wars, Joe. He said that. What do you mean? Listen, the first thing I'm addressing is that right there. This disgusting display of kingship. The way that our administration is not respecting and protecting our foreign family members. Those that are being snatched off the street, being kidnapped, being trafficked, those are the things that I'm going to address first and foremost when I make it to Congress. I need your help to do that. I need you guys to believe that we have humanity in our hearts, that we believe that we, the people, can be the people. So when I get there, the first thing that I'll be doing is working on immigration laws and abolishing this ICE. Hopefully it'll all be done.
Thank you. That's time. Matt?
We're at the front edge of a second Cold War, this time with an adversary at least twice as strong as the Soviets, with more national debt in peacetime than ever before, and faith in the American dream and federal institutions at an all-time low. A single technology threatens whole jobs, livelihoods, and industries, while the doomsday clock, a measure of how close we are to Armageddon, is closer to midnight than ever before. Standing against all these challenges, heroically, our Congress just shut down, just took a vacation, 6 weeks off. The central issue in our politics now is whether the damage being done will be limited or lasting. And the fastest way to ensure that it's limited is to fire Jeff Crank and replace the House of Representatives with a majority of rational vertebrates with the spine to stand up for all of us in this room. And I don't know about you, but I don't see a rational vertebrate next to me.
That's time. Thank you. And unfortunately, shots incorrectly fired. Unfortunately, this is going to be our last question from the audience, but I think this is a very, very important question. So in 60 seconds, with the majority of registered voters in El Paso County registered as unaffiliated, How do you plan to attract their vote? Again, in 60 seconds. With the majority of registered voters in El Paso County registered as unaffiliated, how do you plan to attract their vote? We are starting with Matt.
That's somehow very appropriate, I think. Look, it's no secret that the majority of Americans are not happy with deeply tribal and partisan politics. I think most of you in this room would agree. It seems sometimes like Democrats and Republicans can hate each other more than they love the people that they were sent there to serve. So I think the way that you attract independent voters is by nominating a fiercely independent candidate that's going to stand up for the people in this room, the people of El Paso County, the people of the 5th Congressional District, someone that can build the coalition of Democrats, mostly independents, and even some Republicans, because we know that's what it's going to take to unseat Jeff Crank. It's a good thing that my entire life has been about this kind of coalition warfare. I think I'm the right kind of guy for this job.
Thank you. Zuri?
I would say we keep talking about a middle, and that middle seems to be extremely wealthy people who are fiscally conservative and socially liberal. And we leave out all of the working class people that we have left behind. People know that something is wrong, and they feel that something is wrong, and that's often why they vote MAGA. But those people aren't getting living wages, they aren't getting homes that they can afford, they don't have health care, they're getting bankrupt. And then we'll do things like on the margins, like making sure that if you can afford a airplane ticket, you get a refund if an airplane ticket is reservation is canceled. We need to actually appeal to the vast majority of people that live in El Paso County, Colorado. And those people are working people who are struggling. And we need real policies that we implement, that we don't just talk about, that we don't just message about, but that we actually put into place so that people can not only vote against the other person, but vote for us. And that takes time to rebuild.
And that's time. Justice?
I'm going to come wherever you're at, and I'm going to tell you that you need to go ahead and become a Democrat and vote for me and do your due diligence as an American, as a human being sitting in this country, sitting in this state, to vote for me and make it work. Because the affiliations that I have with people, it doesn't just stop at being a Democrat. It doesn't stop at being a Republican. It doesn't stop at being a liberal. But we do understand what partisan laws are. We do understand what being part of a party does. I mean, Matt came over to us because he knows what it is. He knows what's going on. And he's still a liberal person. But at the same time, we understand that as Democrats, we do have to band together and start making this work. So we have requirements, we have laws that bring us to this point right here, and it means that we either become a Democrat or you vote Democrat.
And that's time. Thank you. Jessica?
I grew up here when the district was ruby red. And then I was in the Army and served with mostly Republicans, and then worked at USAA for a decade. So I've spent much of my career talking with and engaging with Republicans and people who agree with me on some things, disagree with me on others. And I think we have got to get back to talking to each other. We've got to talk to people who disagree with us. We've got to listen to people who disagree with us. And what I'm seeing from Jeff Crank is somebody who will only listen to the 5% of people who agree with him, and he's caught up in his echo chamber. We also have to get out of our echo chamber as Democrats. That is how we win this district, by building a broad coalition, listening. And by the way, that is what representation is. It's listening to people who disagree with you, engaging in civil discourse, and that's how we make a difference in our communities, and that is what I will do as your member. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joe?
You know, I actually had a stint as a liberal commentator on a conservative talk radio station. It's an interesting experience, but it teaches you very quickly how you establish trust and common ground. And that's what wins elections, is trust. And when it comes to attracting unaffiliated voters, it's about building a coalition. We've mentioned that before. And how do you do that? You put someone on the ballot that is known for what they're doing for the community first, that just so happens to be a Democrat. That's what I'm delivering to this community. When you talk to people out there, and some of my canvassers have already mentioned this, Republicans, unaffiliated voters, they don't know me as a Democrat. They know me as a community leader that has made stuff happen here for the community. Not because it's a Democratic solution or the Republican solution, because it's the right thing to do for our community. That's how you build trust. That's how you flip districts.
Thank you. And we will now be moving to our closing statements. At the opening statements, we went in alphabetical order, so now we will go in reverse alphabetical order. You have 90 seconds for your closing statements, starting with Joe.
Well, thank you all for listening so intently tonight. It's been great to see the reaction and how people are responding. The excitement in this room is contagious, and as a candidate, I can't tell you how exciting it is to be part of this journey. The future of our community and of our country is not going to be decided in Washington. It's going to be decided by you. And your willingness to stay engaged, to stay informed, and continue to moving despite the fact that the next year is going to be hard. That's what we're in this together. And we have to continue to stay engaged. We have to continue to have those difficult conversations with our neighbors. You know, I believe that politics needs to be grounded in dignity. It needs to be grounded in service. And we need to be able to bring that message to voters across El Paso County. We need people that are willing to represent our values. Because when we don't have that, the whole system falls apart. Right? I am running for Congress because for too long I have sat here as a nonprofit leader and I have watched good solutions be thrown in the trash can because it wasn't politically advantageous. That's what we need to be shifting. When I look around here and I think of what I'm going to be doing as your representative, it starts with constituent services as well. We don't talk about that enough. And the fact that your congressional office should be one where you actually find solutions. My door has never been the wrong door. If I don't do it, I know who does. That's the sort of thing, because the most important question that you should be asking every one of us up here is not what you think the answer is. It's when you don't know the answer to the question, who are you calling? What is that phone call?
And
Because
that's time. Thank you. Justice?
As we wrap up tonight, I want to come back to why I'm running in the first place. The people. You people. Right now, in our own community, there are neighbors struggling to keep a roof over their heads, families choosing between groceries and other necessities, and individuals who qualify for benefits but can't easily access the support they deserve. These aren't abstract problems, they are lived realities, and they require leadership that sees people as notable labels. I believe that no matter our color, our culture, our race, or our background, our dignity is not up for debate. Hard times don't discriminate, and neither should compassion or solutions. When we work together, when we listen to one another, and when we lead with empathy and accountability, we build a stronger, more resilient community for everyone. If elected, I'll work to address these challenges with collaboration, transparency, and a deep commitment to making sure no one is left behind in progress. When we choose unity over division and action over indifference, we make a community that's great. So I want to thank you all for coming here, for listening to what we all have to say, and really choose the right person. Choose the person that's going to do the right thing.
And that's time. Thank you. Jessica?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Gold, again, for managing all of us. Thank you to my fellow candidates, and thank you again to all of you. Just quick show of hands. Who here is just sick and tired of the chaos and ready for new leadership in our community and our country? Me too. And that is indeed why I'm running. We need to bring competence, courage, and character back to Congress and back to this community. This community, we have been ignored for far too long by our congressional leadership. We need someone who's actually going to show up and do the job. And that is why I'm running. I'm running to bring back dignity to the people of El Paso County. I'm ready to take back the power of Congress. I'm ready to take back the flag. I'm ready to take back patriotism. Red is my favorite color. I'm going to take red back too. I am so grateful for all of you for being here tonight. We have a long road ahead of us. I look forward to working with you as we move through this process. I would like to ask you for your support at caucuses, for your vote on June 30th, and of course, most importantly, your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Zuri?
Hi, well, I strongly believe, yes, we need to flip the seat, but we need to have a longer term plan. It isn't just occupying the seat, it's making sure that you take action. While I've run, after Renee Good was killed, I made sure to highlight that Phil Weiser had a portal to report issues with ICE officers. I talked about legislation that was being entered in the Senate to be able to sue civilly if ICE violates your constitutional rights. I was at the rally speaking, yelling. let's not be cute. But whenever there is an issue, we can't just say this is a problem, we also have to have an answer. And that is the way I have shown up repeatedly in the community. If you know me, you know that's what I do. When there is somebody from our region who was abducted by ICE and witnessed somebody being beaten, and then we were worried about his health after he was transferred to Oklahoma, I called both Senate offices, I called 3 Congress people, I contacted the news and got 2 news reports. I found a lawyer that was able to at least represent him marginally, just as an advocate. But I will go above and beyond and use whatever levers of power I have to protect you and to defend you. I can't guarantee results, but I can guarantee that I will drag my body across the line and do whatever I possibly can to help you.
Thank you. Matt?
I want to tell you why I love this community. On any given day, over half of us here wear a flag to work or love someone who does. We win wars here, we win medals, and this is the arts community that made America the beautiful. This is why I choose to raise my kids here. This is the place. I'm ready to hit crank because he never served and most of us did, and I've done nothing but that my whole life. I'm ready to hit crank because he won't listen to us, and I assure you, both of my ears are wide open to all of you. I'm ready to hit crank because he lost Space Command, thousands of jobs, billions of dollars. I served at Army Space and Missile Defense Command. I earned an Army Space Badge, which looks suspiciously like Buzz Lightyear's emblem, by the way. This is a community where service and sacrifice still matter. No other candidate has skin in the game like I do. I'm gonna hit harder, and I'm gonna be harder to hit. That's how we're gonna make sure that it's not just this empty chair, but that his seat in Congress becomes empty too. Thank you all so very, very much for being here tonight. Thank you.
All right, and now with a loud round of applause, give it up for all of our candidates. Okay, if we could just have you hang out for just a moment. We will be wrapping up here in just a few minutes, and I know that the candidates will also be around for just a little bit if you'd like to chat with them. I know that we did not get through several questions that were by the audience and by Indivisible, so we will get these questions to our candidates. I really want to encourage everyone to continue your civic participation, and you guys just did something incredible, which is you stood up for democracy. I do have 2 last questions to ask, and I'm going to ask you to keep the volume down. One question is for you, the audience, and one question is for you, the candidates. And if you were with me last time, you probably knew it was coming. So the question, yes or no only, looking at you, Joe. Will you support whomever gets through primary? Yes or no, yes. Starting with Joe.
Yes.
Justice.
Since she wants to pull my leg. Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Zuri.
Yes.
And Matt.
Of course.
This is how you guys unseat Jeff Crank. Now, my question goes to you. If you are going to stand up for democracy, by supporting the person that gets through primary, regardless of who your candidate was, I'm asking you to be bold and courageous and stand tonight. A round of applause to all of you for standing up for democracy and changing what democracy looks like on November 3rd. Thank you for being here tonight, and good night. Thank you.